Cinemasins has a fan club. It's called the Sin Club, and members get all sorts of things like early episodes, bonus videos, merch discounts, and even monthly bonus podcasts. Membership starts at $3 a month, and you can sign up now at patreon.com/cinemasins. Recently, we were able to talk to several members of the cast and the director of the new action horror film Triggered. These are 3 interviews that were recorded separately, but we have included them all for you in one SinCast recording. So, without further ado, enjoy these interviews and make sure you check out Triggered, available on demand and digital November 6th.
You know, we just had to cut our catering budget by half, you know, to cover the whenever everyone was complaining about the cold hot dogs we were eating, we were like, well, we've got Sean Cameron.
Welcome to SinCast, presented by Cinemasins.
SinCast. This is Chris Atkinson from Cinemasins, joined by Jonathan Watkins from Cinemasins.
Hello, hello.
And today we have a very special guest. It is actor Sean Cameron Michael, who is in the movie Triggered, coming out on November 6th. And Triggered is about a bunch of, college-age kids, maybe? I don't know. I can't remember how old they're supposed to be. That wake up.
Very annoying kids.
I'm sorry?
Very annoying kids.
Very annoying kids. Yes, exactly. You get that right off the bat. There's no doubt about it. And they wake up with these packs strapped to them that have timers on them that are set to explode. And the only way that they can get more time is by killing each other. Sean, you play Mr. Peterson in Triggered. And you are the sort of the person who sets all of this in motion. Is that too much of a spoiler at all?
No, not at all. Mr. Peterson was basically their science teacher when they were all at school. And so they all know him from school as their science teacher. And what happened a couple of years ago was his son, Caleb, died from a drug overdose. And his wife then also subsequently committed suicide. And so Mr. Peterson is basically seeking revenge. He believes that these 9 very annoying school kids are somehow to blame for his son's death. And so he takes them hostage.
Yeah, that's a nearly an almost sinister laugh you gave there. One thing I want to sort of backtrack on a little bit. I noticed that you have 98 credits on the IMDb, and I was wondering what your life is like, where you are in maybe, I don't know, you're in like 5 movies or more every year. And I just wanted to know, because you see people who have this sort of, you look at like an Eric Roberts or somebody like that does like 10 movies in a year, and you're like, how does he do that? I mean, I know a lot of times it's just small stuff, but tell me what your life's like.
Where do I begin? You mean pre-COVID or since COVID?
I will take both. Actually, that's a totally fine thing.
Yeah, I've been doing this crazy acting thing since I was a teenager, and my parents were both involved in the entertainment industry, and so from a young age, I think at the age of like 12, I did my first professional stage production musical. And, so I've always sort of had the acting bug. And throughout my life, I've really just tried to, do as much work as I can to survive as an actor. Originally from South Africa, and relocated to the States about 6 years ago. It's really been, I never went to, university or anything like that. So it was really sort of on the job training for me So sort of in my 20s, I sort of started off as an extra, then became a featured extra, and then started, got myself an agent and started auditioning for, TV series and movies, and did commercials and voiceovers and TV presenting, and really sort of, from the sort of ground up, really sort of tried to learn the craft and sort of perfect the craft. And I think after 3 decades and 98 credits, I'm slowly getting the hang of it.
Is it literally just like going from one set to another? Or do you have some actual time in between movies a lot of times?
There's always, I mean, for most actors, 90% of the time we're auditioning. We're auditioning and doing self-tapes and facing rejection on a daily basis.
Right.
So, but in between auditions and that, I'm also doing, I'm doing short films and music videos, and always collaborating with with actors and directors and writers and producers. And so very much over the past sort of 15 years, being very much involved in the indie sort of film industry. And that has, luckily the older I sort of get, these sort of things sort of pay off. They sort of come full circle. So where I maybe, did a short film for somebody 10 years ago, I met sort of the first AD on that set, and he said to me, a South African sort of said to me, "Hey, Brew, you're an amazing actor. Hey, one day I'm going to cast you as a lead role in my movie, Brew." And then like literally, I was in Los Angeles. I'd just got my green card, relocated to LA, and got this email from this guy that I'd met 10 years ago on this short film set, and he said, "Okay, it's taken me 10 years, but I finally got the feature film ready. We've got the money in place. Do you want to come back to South Africa and do this movie for me?" So yeah, it's really a case of, I've always wanted to, keep as busy as possible and, collaborate with, with writers and filmmakers. And I've always sort of had this attitude of, I never want to stop, learning and growing as an artist and as a person. So it's, it's really just a case of, keeping busy. And there are months, obviously, where, where it is quiet, and, the whole industry, or the whole entertainment industry as an actor, is a roller coaster. I tend to sort of book 3 projects in a row, and then do work on those, and sort of maybe then sit for a couple of months. And so I'm busy screenwriting, or I'm busy coaching young actors, and then I'll then book my next 3 projects. And coincidentally, usually those projects all have the same name or similar names. So like I'll do a movie called Last Broken Darkness, and then after that I'll then book my next movie, which is The Last Days of American Crime. And then I'll book another movie called The Last Victims. So I'm going through the last phase, and right now I'm in South Africa, and now I'm going through my B phase. So I've just finished working on a local movie here, an Afrikaans movie. I won't mention the name of it, but it starts with a B. And on Friday I start working on a TV series which also starts with a B. So I'm just waiting for the third one.
Have you ever? This is probably stupid, but have you ever like gotten on a set and think it was some other movie that you were supposed to be on, or like start reading lines from another movie on set?
Luckily I've that's what we have agents and managers for, to sort out schedules and things, so things don't clash. So I'm fortunate that I've never been in a position yet where I've literally had to sort of run between sets, but I have had jobs which have sort of clashed. So they'll then, if they really want me, which is rare, but if they do, then then we just sort of sort out the scheduling. I mean, in the case of this movie, Triggered, I had literally just jumped in the plane back to Los Angeles for pilot season. And I arrived in Los Angeles, I think, on the Monday morning, and the Monday afternoon got an email from the director, Alistair Orr, and said, "Look, we're shooting this movie back in South Africa. We start in 2 weeks' time. Can you fly back to South Africa for 3 days to work in this movie?" And I was like, dude, I can recommend 5 other actors in South Africa right now, who are available, who can do it. It's a long flight from Cape Town from South Africa to Los Angeles. It usually sort of
Oh my
takes
gosh.
26, 30 hours,
I
depending.
can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But Alistair and the producer Arieh were pretty much set on me. So I was back in Los Angeles for a couple of days, and I was back in the plane back to South Africa. They shot me out in 2 days, and I was back in LA again. So it's just a crazy business. It's really sort of feast or famine. It's quite insane.
I would say so. So what attracted you to the script? What made you want to play this part?
Well, David Jones and Alistair Ord had written something which I thought was actually really, really funny. It was it's a very sort of tongue-in-cheek, funny script and very commercial, and Alistair's very respected as an indie film director in South Africa. And he had done House on Willow Street, which had done pretty well. And I just found the script really, 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 really fun and clever, and obviously very commercial. But it's nice every now and again to do something. I tend to do lots of sort of indie things or very sort of obscure productions, and really sort of over the past sort of 3 decades, I've always played sort of very deep, heavy baddies and psychopaths and things like that. So this particular character was kind of, in my sort of wheelhouse, and there was quite a bit of depth to it, and it just seemed like a lot of fun, and I was excited to work with Alistair, so that's really why I said yes to it. As I said, I wasn't into jumping into another 36-hour flight, but it was really lots of fun, and one has to be supportive of indie filmmakers in the hope that one day when they actually get that $50 million to make their big movie, they'll go, oh yeah, Sean supported me. Let me bring him on board.
You're just making investments, right? At this
exactly. It's like playing the lottery, really.
I am curious though, like you said, you've played bad guys, and I know I've seen you on like 24 and things like that, but this one was a little different, right? I guess with I guess even though obviously you're still a bad guy and killing is wrong, there is still like some, I guess, remorse there, right? Like there's we feel bad for you, I mean, was that interesting? Was that an interesting angle to play?
Oh no, absolutely. As I'm sure you guys know, I mean, most actors will say to you, just because you're playing a baddie or a supposed baddie, one never sees themselves as a bad person. And so as an actor, it's always my job to figure out, okay, well, what is this madness or this insanity in their world? What makes it real for them? And in the case of Peterson, is a really, really unhappy guy. As Alistair said to me, he doesn't see the sunlight anymore. He's lost his son, who he obviously loved dearly. He's lost his wife, and he's been suffering for a couple of years to try and figure this out, to try and move forward with his life. And so, yes, I mean, I don't want to be corny and go, yeah, I'm always looking for multi-layered characters so I can peel that onion of all the layers and look for colors in my characters. But it is true. I mean, it's quite interesting that I've really over the past 30 years really actually always played the same character. And what it is, it's either the goodie who turns out to be a baddie, or a baddie who turns out to be a goodie. There's always a sort of duality, to these characters. And so, yes, Peterson, in my world, absolutely, he's not a baddie. He's just a very sad, deranged father and husband who's trying to figure things out.
I thought it was. And we can cut this out if you feel this is too spoilery. But I just thought it was funny that or interesting that your character basically was like, I'm just I'm done investigating, trying to figure out who it is, so I'm just going to strap these to 12 people and just hopefully I get one of them.
Hopefully it kills the right one. Yeah. I mean, really in the story, Peterson. these 9 school kids were all at school with his son, and
Hmm.
they are all in some way to blame. They were all aware of what Peterson's son was going through. So, at some point, one of them, could have stepped forward or prevented this from happening. So yeah, he blames all of them.
Yeah, you may have touched a little bit on this, but that was one of the questions that I had was how you approached this character, because do you try to get inside the mind of somebody like that? Do you do some research, or do you draw from any kind of personal experiences? Hopefully not. In this case, but is that how you do it, or you just say this is how I think it's going to be, and I'll just roll with it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the work that I've done has, yes, I mean, I've been fortunate every now and again to play leads in a couple of features and TV series and things, and but when it's a project like Triggered, where I'm really just sort of coming in and playing a supporting role, what always what my job is to figure out where this character fits into the story and his importance to the other characters. So it's not really, yes, obviously, I'm sort of focused on myself and how I'm going to portray this character, and I am sort of trying to figure out what does he look like? What does he sound like? What does he feel like? What are the rhythms of his speech? And what is his, sort of emotional arcs and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, as a supporting character, I'm always very much looking for whatever I'm saying and doing, how is it affecting the other characters? And how is it going to help them? So, Triggered is very much it was very much a sort of collaborative process.
Right.
But it really is an ensemble piece. So yeah, I mean, the way that I approach Peterson and the scenes with him is really what can I bring to these scenes to help the other characters and the angst and the pain and the hell that they're busy going through. But yes, I mean, he is definitely a very dark, sad individual, and I've played a couple of those, and so
Yeah.
and it's always so funny to me, and it still happens where I'll meet I'll meet a young actor or somebody who's maybe seen something that I've been in, and within 5 minutes they'll always say to me, "Oh my God, you're like so funny, and you're so nice, and you're so friendly, and you're so charming." And why they're all whiny valley girls, I don't know. But no, sorry. But they will. People always say to me, "But you're such a down-to-earth, friendly, nice guy." And well, just because I play baddies or I play, I don't know if I can use the word arseholes, but just because I
you
play,
can use any word you want.
just because I play these crazy idiots or bad people doesn't necessarily mean that I need to be a psychopath myself. I think
Exactly. That's interesting that people assume that you're going to be like that when
exactly. It's the same when when you meet a comedian or somebody who does a lot of comedy, and you go, "Oh, great! Tell me a joke." And
Yeah.
the irony is as I'm sure you know, that the majority of comedians are actually very, very introverted, very, very quiet individuals, and it's the same with actors. And actually, what I've sort of been finding over the years is that a lot of directors and writers, screenwriters, a lot of us are actually very, very introverted. We actually don't necessarily like the limelight. We actually especially now through this whole sort of lockdown, COVID insanity, for a lot of writer and director and actor friends of mine, for us, this is quite normal. It's quite normal. It's quite normal being indoors and spending hours and days and weeks and then busy writing and working. And so, yeah.
I wondered if it was tough, especially considering you had to make this how long is it, 28, 29, 30-hour flight to get on set, and your character doesn't have like any like real like cold open, so to speak. You're immediately in this sort of manic state and everything.
Yeah.
Is that hard to do? Like going from 0 to 60 like that? You just like, all right, ready to go, and now you gotta be this guy.
The funniest thing is, I'll come back to Peterson, but the funniest thing I was when I did the Shooter TV series for the USA Network.
Mm-hmm.
That was with Costa Ronan and Ryan Philippe and Omar Epps, and I actually had a really fun scene with Tom Sizemore,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, and and I was playing I was playing this Russian character, but when I actually booked Shooter, I'd actually auditioned for Shooter when I was still when I was in Los Angeles, and then I never heard anything, and I was about to, and I did. I mean, I jumped on a flight back to Cape Town, South Africa, and I was back in South Africa for about a week, and then I suddenly got this frantic call from my manager who said, "You've booked Shooter. They need you in Los Angeles in 72 hours." And I can do this. I can do this. and I jumped on a plane. I arrived in Los Angeles. I rented a car. I jumped in the car, drove off to set, and walked onto set. And I was going to say hungover. I still had jet lag. I still had jet lag, and walk into the set and do this scene, this pretty intense scene with Tom Sizemore. And
by the way, you can't work with Tom Sizemore and the scene not be intense. If anybody didn't realize that,
you know what I'm saying. And then what happened was the director, British director Simon Sealand Jones, sort of came up to me and he sort of whispered into my ear, and he said to me, "Okay, Sean. So when Tom says this to you, what I want you to do is just laugh in his face, laugh and smile in his face." And this obviously, Simon said to me privately. And so the next second we went for a take, and Tom delivers his line. I just sort of started laughing in his face, and like Tom lost his shit. I mean, he like literally got in my face, and I was just like sort of standing my ground. I was just sort of standing my ground, and then afterwards, we'd sort of finished shooting the scene. Everything was great, and afterwards we were sort of going back to our trailers. I sort of went up to Tom and I was like, "Please understand that I'm actually, a really big fan of your work." And Simon had told me, because I just thought, he was going to think, "Oh my God, who is this arrogant South African Russian idiot or whatever." But it was only afterwards, when I was sort of in the car going back to my apartment, I was thinking, how did I actually get through that? And so in that sense, it actually helped that I was jet lagged, because it just sort of got me out of my own head. And so to answer your question, I know there was sort of a long way around of doing that.
No, I would hear hours of those stories. By the way,
yeah, for sure.
If you wanted to provide us with more of those, I would just sit here and listen to them.
So yeah, I mean, my job, and that's really what the past sort of 5 years in the States has sort of taught me, is to really make very, very strong and specific decisions about how you want to play a character, how you want to play a role, and arrive on set ready to go. And it was the same. And so, yes, exactly, with Peterson, while they were sort of busy setting up the shot, and it started raining, and they were shooting in the middle of this forest in the woods, and it was pouring with rain. I mean, on take one, I sort of come walking toward these kids and sort of went slip sliding in the mud and fell on my ass. So that was kind of funny, and then we sort of reset. But I mean, I've sort of been trained to to just get into the mind and the craziness of the character and just be ready to go. So it's sort of a strange thing, but I've sort of learned to to be able to sort of switch that on and off.
Every time I see a character like yours that has that kind of just comes in like that hot. And I think of Jack Nicholson in The Shining, that footage of him before he does the axe scene, and he's just trying to get himself into this froth and everything, and it's terrifying just watching him getting into that, even though he's cracking jokes just before that and everything, but watching him just kind of do this type of thing is kind of it's a mesmerizing thing. I think it's a really it's something that's sort of underrated about when you watch a movie and you realize what that actor had to do to get to that sort of state and everything. But you said you've done this enough now where you're like, okay, I just flip the switch basically. So.
Yeah, I mean, you get, you get a lot of actors who are very much, sort of method actors where they pretty much arrive at base camp and they're ready in character. And you can't approach them and you can't talk to them or have a conversation with them because they're already in that zone. And one has to respect that. When I worked on a movie a couple of years back called The Challenger Disaster with William Hurt. And Mr. Hurt is absolutely like that. He's pretty much in character from the word go. Also, Toby Jones that I worked with on The Girl quite a couple of years ago. Same stories. So one has to be quite sort of careful not to approach them, because they're already in character.
Yeah.
But then I find that for me as an actor. Personally, for me, it's not necessarily a safe place to be. I am one of those guys who can, sort of be joking and having a good laugh, and they go, okay, cool, you guys ready? And then I will, switch it on, and so I can switch it on and switch it off very, very easily. But for me to, live in that world of this character. It's for me, I've just found that it's especially, if it is a really, really dark sort of psychopathic character. I did this documentary drama a couple of years ago called, it was Get Out Alive, the Utah Library Shootout. And this character that I played really was, oh my God, it was also one of these, this guy who goes into a library, obviously it's a true story, goes into a library out in Utah and has a bomb strapped to his body, and he's got, a sort of a trigger switch, and he takes all these people hostage. And this was a really, really dark, crazy character. And I mean, every night that when I sort of got home from set, I really had to sort of, take a long shower and just sort of wash that character's insanity in a way, because it can really sort of, take over you. So, when you look at, most of the actors who've played the Joker, if you think of people like, Heath Ledger and, doing this very much sort of method thing and sort of living, 24/7 in that character's world, it's not a healthy place to be in.
It's exactly it's exactly who popped into my head when you said that. I do wonder about that sometimes, because you're, in a way, you're for a brief moment of time, you're changing the way you think and feel. And, it's gotta be something that sort of stays with you a little bit, especially if there's, I don't know, if there's some sort of like drug involved, like, your naturally occurring kind of drug to the whole thing that opens up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I don't know, it's a really sort of interesting thing that sometimes I think, the reason I became an actor was because, I was a lonely kid, and I just wanted to sort of disappear into my little sort of fantasy world, and the entertainment industry or acting, gives me the opportunity to play all these really, interesting and exciting and weird and fun characters. It's sometimes, depending on the role and how big the role is, and if I'm just going in for 1 or 2 days work on something, that's fine. But if I'm working on something for quite a couple of weeks or quite a couple of months, some things about that production can stay with you. So it's quite odd, really. I'd done this movie called Faith Like Potatoes, which is quite an odd name for a movie, but it was the story of Angus Buchan, who's this sort of preacher, really, in South Africa, true story. And they made a movie about his life, and in the movie I play his brother. And what happens in the story is that Angus, by mistake, with a tractor, rides over and kills my son in the story.
Jeez.
And what eventually happens is my character Fergus has this dream one night that he sees his son again in the dream, and he then sort of picks up the phone to his brother and he says, I saw him, I saw my son in this dream, and it's all going to be okay. And when we actually shot this phone call scene, the director came to me, Richard van der Berg came to me, and he said to me, Sean, for the scene, I really, really, I really want you to break down and cry. I don't want to, I want real tears. I want the snot coming out of your nose. I want you to completely break down. And Richard and the team were really cool. They sort of, set up the camera, and they said, okay, cool, get into the space, whatever you need to get into, and whenever you're ready, sort of lift your hand and it'll start rolling the camera. And we shot the hell out of that scene.
Imagine.
And then still broke for lunch, and then came back and then carried on seeing me just crying and crying and crying. And at one point, when we had finally, shot the scene from every conceivable angle, the director came to me and sort of hugged me, and we were both sort of in tears. And he said to me, Sean, I'm so sorry to put you through this. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was amazing. It was a wonderful experience. But the point actually being is that for a couple of years since that movie, there's still a part of me inside of me that it's almost like a piece of my heart actually broke a bit. That I actually, for it to be 100% believable on screen, I actually had to go there. I genuinely had to believe, that my son died, in my arms. I had to believe that.
Wow.
And so I know it sort of makes me sound psychologically unstable, but I'm sure it can make sense to you guys that if for you to, I don't believe in, it has to be real for me, in the moment. My performances and my portrayals need to come from a place of truth. Because if it's believable and real to me, then, that will, the audience will see that and feel that. So, sometimes these really sort of dark, heavy roles can sort of stay with you. I've got another movie also coming out, which is sort of doing the festival circuit, called Fried Barry, which is this really sort of crazy sci-fi movie.
I saw that on your credits, and I wanted to see it.
No, it's sort of doing the whole festival circuit. And what's also really interesting about Fried Barry is about 2-3 years ago, I'd done another movie called The Last Victims. And in The Last Victims, that character was beaten up and walks around for 3/4 of the movie with a limp. So he's got a walking stick. And then about a year later, or no, not a year, maybe 6 months later, we shot Fried Barry. And in the one scene in Fried Barry, I'm sort of running down this insane asylum with an AK-47 in my hands. And when we finished shooting the scene, the director came to me and he said to me, he was like, I find it really interesting that you decided to give your character a limp. And I was like, oh my God, I used the limp from the character that I had played in the previous movie 2 years ago, or whatever. It was such an odd thing. So we do kind of carry some of these weird things with us. It's quite odd.
Before we go, I just wanted to ask if there was, you said that you do a lot of these kind of independent movies and everything. For people who don't know who you are, what are a couple of projects that you really wish they would go watch?
Well, obviously, Triggered's going to be lots of fun.
Absolutely.
And Fried Barry, as I said, that's sort of doing the festival circuit, sort of doing the whole horror film sci-fi festival circuit. So Fried Barry will be coming out, I suppose, around the world next year at some point. And what else? There's Fried Barry, there's that, and then I've got sort of 2 projects that we sort of in pre-production on. But I can't really sort of talk about those right now. But if people sort of follow me on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that, then I'm pretty good about sort of keeping that stuff up to date and annoying people with all my projects that are coming out. So just follow me on social media, and you'll be able to catch some of the stuff.
One thing I did want to ask you, because I've never talked to anybody involved with this show, but you worked on a show called Blood Drive.
Oh yeah.
Which, my God, if I've never wanted to be in a pitch meeting more than when James Rowland must have pitched this to Sci-Fi. It's just, this is such an insane. For those that don't know, it's these people that are taking part in this race, like kind of like Death Race 2000, but the fuel for the cars is blood. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Did you have any and you played a really fun character on that show.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Blood Drive. Every now and again, as an actor, you'll get a script for something, and you'll go, "I have to do this. I have to get this job. I have to be in it." And Blood Drive was absolutely, yeah. I read the first 3 episodes, and I was like, I really, really have to do this. And I was really fortunate in the sense that when I was busy working on Shooter, the producer on Shooter happened to be one of the producers on Blood Drive. And then I'd done a self-tape for Blood Drive, and they never got it. And then the actor that they had hired to work in it, that never quite worked out. And so then I got this frantic phone call from John Lavin, who was like, "Sean, do you want to go back to Cape Town and go shoot Blood Drive? We've got this cool role." And so, yeah, Blood Drive was absolutely one of the most exciting, craziest projects to work on. And it's kind of devastating that it never got picked up for a season 2, because it had such an amazing cult following. But it really, it really sort of pays such wonderful tribute to all the different genres of horror, and Robert Rodriguez.
Yeah, it was kind of it was just something I kind of stumbled on. I guess it was like the first episode, but I don't know if it was the week it premiered or if it was a week or 2 later, and it was late at night, and I remember just like, did I dream that I watched this show?
It was so much fun to work on, and the character of Old Man Hart was also one of my favorite, and also one of my most challenging characters.
I loved it. It was great.
Cool, man.
All right. We'd like to thank Sean, Cameron, Michael for giving us his time. Thank you so much, man. The stories that you told are fantastic. I can't wait for everybody to hear them and everything. So thanks for showing up here today.
Thanks so much for the support, guys.
And now we are joined by Raina Swart. Welcome, Raina.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. You're basically playing the brain in this movie. You're the brainy one. Even your name itself has the RIAN in it, spelt just so, because that's what you are.
Oh yeah, it's very similar to my name. So I was like, I hope I get, because I originally auditioned for 2 characters, and I was like, Ryan is very close to Raina. I can totally relate to the smarty Harvard kind of girl. I would love to play her. So it was really exciting.
Yeah. As such, because you are the brains of this movie and everything, you have a lot of screen time, and you are the one that sort of explains a lot of things that are going on in the movie and everything. And I'm kind of wondering how you prepared for your role, and what did you do to get into this character?
Yeah, so first of all, I was looking at the script and I was like, okay, so Ryan has a lot of lines to learn. So I was like, okay, it makes sense. She's the brainy one. So first of all, because we were shooting, sorry, I'm just going to explain, like we had night shoots, and sometimes, shooting from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., you really get tired. And if you don't know your lines very, very well, you're going to screw it up. So first of all, I was like, let me just get these lines perfect. And so that was my first goal. And preparing otherwise for her, I was like, just looking, A Beautiful Mind. I actually watched that film because I was like, oh, he's smart. I need to watch something.
That's awesome.
Okay, she wasn't like, I know Russell Crowe plays, like he's what do you call it? Like he had that, he was very paranoid and people following it. I know it's completely different, but I was like, I just need to watch films where people are really smart. So just basically knowing those lines, and so I had a lot of fun with her.
Yeah. Do you think everybody hates your character in this movie? Does everybody hate you?
Oh, like the other characters?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I think obviously PJ loves Ryan. He's adorable. He's like the the boyfriend, Ryan's boyfriend, and I kind of just pictured them in my head, like he's going to be the stay-at-home dad one day, and she's going to bring in the money in the home. So that was their kind of relationship that they had. So no, he adored her. I think he actually kind of like, yeah, he adored her. But the other characters, I think they find her annoying because she knows a lot, and she's she's not she always she would correct everyone, and it's kind of like irritating if everyone correcting everyone and saying, no, this is what we should do, but everyone knows she's right, of course.
Right.
So I think I don't think they hate her. I just think at the moment, in the film, they're like very irritated with her because she's just telling everyone what to do, and Erin is such a cute and wonderful character, so I think Erin just loves everyone, so Erin can't hate anyone.
Yeah.
I felt so bad for PJ because he got ragged on so much. Even like when there's so many other things going on, someone would still remark that he was dumb or something, and I'm like, really? Like that's what we're talking about right now?
Exactly. But he's not dumb. He's just sensitive.
Yeah. How did you get involved with this? What was the story behind that?
So Alistair Orr actually, I think this is a project. I'm just gonna. I think so. I'm not 100% sure, but a project that he did very independently because he wanted to do it his way. So a lot of budget constraints, but because he wanted to fund it and do what he wanted to do, because he's done a couple of great films before this. And so what happened was I got a message on Facebook, and if you don't know someone and it's like, okay, it's great. I don't know you. You asked me to audition for your movie, but I do have an agent. But then I Googled his name and I was like, oh, this is Alistair Orr, like The House on Willow Street. I've seen that movie. It's a great movie. Of course I'll audition. Thank you so much. But yeah, so I auditioned for it. It was a self-tape. And I went back to South Africa, I think it was just 2 months before it filmed. And I met up with them, and they're just really, really great filmmakers. And so that's how I got involved. I was lucky enough to, land the role from my audition.
You said you were shooting another movie before this, right? That you just happened to be in South Africa, but that's your home too. So I guess it's kind of cool that you got to shoot a couple of movies at your home base before you had to go back. Yeah,
that was really, really lovely. It's just the way it works is, I don't know, it's just so far. And, now that we've moved to America about 3 years ago, it just shows you that you can work anywhere in the world. There's planes. Okay, this year has been very strange, so I'm taking that back. But it was fairly cool.
Yeah, it's like everybody's got secrets in this movie, right? Everybody's got their things that are floating around, and obviously we won't get into the spoilers of your secrets that are in this and everything, but. Do you make choices as an actor with that in mind, or do you just try to keep that, I don't know, at arm's length until the surprise or the revelation comes in? Do you have to sort of keep that in mind through everything that you're doing?
That's a very good question. I like to keep it in mind because it's true to the character, but without being obvious. You don't want to give anything away. I guess everyone, like you said in the film, had secrets and everything, and you don't want to spoil anything. But the way this was a really fun, fast-paced film, so it's obviously not drama, so didn't get too much into that. But you keep it in mind. I think that's very important just for yourself as well, and to play the character as authentically as possible.
And because of the sort of the craziness involved, you have to go through all sorts of ranges of emotions and everything. Yeah, there's a lot of shouting, obviously, but there's also a lot of there's sadness, there's exposition, there's anger, there's all. How do you keep up with all that day to day?
Yeah, so I really, that's what I liked about Ryan. It wasn't just one tone. It wasn't just angry all the time, or exactly what you were saying. She was going through a range of emotions, which was really, really cool. So I think with that, because I played in a previous film, I played a lead, and I just shouted the whole time. And when I watched it, I was like, why didn't I do something different at some point? Of course you have a director, but it's, I think, your responsibility too as an actor to see, if you can do different things with the character, because no one is angry for an hour long. We all go
Right.
through emotions. We'll be angry and then we'll be sad and maybe we'll be angry again. And yeah, so I really had to, so I actually had this is a very, so I think Ryan and myself were a little similar, so I'm kind of a little geeky, and so I had this whole file, and I would like highlight everything a certain color that I think her emotions are, like yellow, happiness,
Yeah.
something like that, pink, mad, and yeah, so that was really fun to just play different emotions, and yeah.
Well, kind of playing off of that, like, or going off of that, like, I'm assuming this movie was shot out of order, but when you're dealing with a movie like this where it's in a certain time limit, I would assume, is that challenging? Because I mean, you're having to go from the end to the beginning to the middle, as far as shooting goes.
Yeah. So definitely that helps, as an actor, to have your own little set of how this puzzle pieces together, because then you have the end piece, and then you have exactly what you're saying. It's not filmed at all, scene after scene. So definitely that helps to have a certain guideline, like the emotions, where she's at, what just happened. I kind of always just write, if I'm doing a scene today, like just go through the scene, what happened just before this, but we all make mistakes, but sometimes I'm like, oh, why am I so happy? I was just like really angry before this. Oh, wow. So yeah, you try to balance it and make it, true to the character.
There's one scene in here. I don't know if it's spoilery. I'm going to try to figure out if I can say this.
It's hard to talk about this movie.
It is. But I think my favorite moment of your acting is you are looking through a bag and you notice something, and you know that you're not supposed to know about it. So then you throw the bag over and tell the person to look through the bag like you didn't look through it and everything. And and it's an interesting thing. I thought in this whole thing, was that sort of fun to play, like that
very subtle moments.
Yeah.
No, definitely, that was really fun to play, I think, and also keeping that secret with the character throughout the rest of the film. I think subtle moments like that, it's very important, and I'm glad that Alistair, it wasn't just, of course it's just fun and we want to steal each other's time to stay alive type of thing, but it was fun to have a little bit of more subtle, gentle moments as well, and having more depth for your character, because obviously it's a horror, it's really fun and everything, but for you as an actor, it's always good to have layers to your character. So we tried, yeah.
Was there anything in particular about the script that you said, I have to do this, or just any kind of moment at all?
Yeah. So actually, Alistair sent the whole script for the audition, and I picked. So I have to be very careful as well. Like the same with, I don't want to give anything away, but
right.
Basically Ryan's monologue, and like,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So I really like that because there was just so many different layers, and it just shows Ryan is not what she seems at all. Not at all, but I mean, everyone has their secrets, like you were saying, and that I really like that piece. I think it was well written, and so I had a lot of fun with that, and that's why I wanted to play it, is just because of that part. So yeah.
Yeah, you've spoken fairly glowingly of Alistair Orr. I was wondering what his style was like. What is he like as a director?
He's really, really fun to work with. He's got this way of like, I would do something, I'll play my heart out, and then be like, okay, Raina, like that, just tons better, please. I'm like, okay, fine. I'm like, okay. No, but it's not in a nasty way, you know. He's just really, really fun. So he had a lot of comments. I'm not great with remembering them, but just the way he does stuff, and then we had to run a lot, obviously, and we all had a lot of bruises. What was the one character? She had, it was really like the one girl, she had, her whole knee was like a black blue bruise. It was just very awful. But it was just, but we had so much fun. So I would like run as fast as I can, and maybe I'm not that fast, but then Alistair would say, okay, just do it as if you're gonna die. So really, really run. And I'm like, okay, I kind of just I think that's the fastest I can go, but yeah. So yeah, he's very enjoyable, and he makes the set, he makes it light, but he's great. I think he's kind of like a mad genius. He's very intelligent, and I think if he wanted to be, he could be a doctor. This is just me thinking. Maybe not that intelligent. Maybe it's just, he's kind of just wearing a mask of he's intelligent. But I think he's really great, and yeah.
It's interesting. It doesn't, you don't notice it really at first, but this movie sort of sneaks in a lot of humor into it.
Yeah. So I don't think Ryan kind of like sneaked that in, because but a lot of the other characters had really cool sneaky humor scenes, and I think that makes it fun. Big Zombieland fan, so kind of something like that. Yeah, it just makes for something you can watch over and over again.
Well, and it was interesting too, because I feel like a lot of these movies, especially like that came out like right after Saw, they would just start like in the room, right? With all the people trapped, and also they didn't usually know each other. They were usually strangers. But this movie actually starts off with like, I don't know how many minutes, but a decent amount of time of, almost like a college comedy or something. You guys are just hanging out in the woods and, drinking and having fun. And also you guys all know each other, which is also very different for, these types of scenarios, which I thought was really cool. I'm assuming you guys seem like you all were actually friends. You played it well. If you weren't, but
no, but actually, funny enough, I think we all really became friends, which is pretty cool. I think because I remember on the reading, we went, and I'm an introvert, so maybe people think I'm a little rude, but I just don't talk to everyone. And I remember the one Soraya, she's a lovely actress. She was saying, oh, I thought you didn't like me. And I was like, no, I was just shy. I didn't want to speak to you because I was just shy. And so we actually, just for the fun of it, so Cameron Scott, he plays PJ, and he plays the dumb one in the film, but he's very intelligent. So he actually, we did laser tag. We all played laser tag before shooting the film, and we were kind of just trying to bond and get to know each other. So everyone was just really fun to work with. Steven, he plays Ezra. I always thought, because he's quite he's quite a well-known casting director actually in South Africa, and actor, of course. And so we always, as an actors, always kind of scared of casting directors. So I was just so surprised that he has a great sense of humor too. So it's like, yeah, we actually really became friends, which
That's
is
awesome.
Yeah.
What was the filming in that location like? Had you done anything in any kind of movie in the woods, that deep of the woods? Was it as remote as it looks, or is it is it like right next to some a gas station or something?
It's yeah, sorry I'm laughing, but yeah, it's true. So it's very close to the highway, like freeway, so it's not that remote.
Okay.
They did such a great job because it wasn't too far to drive or to just stay at a guest house if you needed to. We literally filmed like in this little piece of woods, and they would just like fix things up and change it a little bit. And I think they used the space really well, keeping everything contained. And so it was really a small space, but they did a great job.
Yeah, it certainly looked like there was a good amount of acreage, gone over there. So yeah, that was really well done. Obviously, we can't talk too much more about this movie, but I do have a question about, and maybe you can talk about it, and maybe you can't. But I was looking at your IMDb, and it looks like you're ready to do your writer-director feature debut.
Oh yeah, that's the film that I worked on just before this one. So we filmed. It's just it's called The Hex. So yeah, that was really it's also just a horror. I've mainly worked on horror films the last couple of years. It was lovely to work on, and that's what I did just before this film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just wondering what that was like, and if that was fun, and if you're planning on having that, it's going to be a sort of a wide release or anything like that.
Yeah, it got picked up by Cleopatra Entertainment for release in December, so I'm really excited about that. So,
congratulations!
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
I'll be looking forward to seeing that. It must have been thrilling.
Yes, a first one. So I guess, working with Alistair, I could understand like a little bit more because I was behind the cameras just before that shoot. So just having a lot of respect because the director, like Alistair, just especially with night shoots, he has to concentrate so much. So even though we get tired as actors and especially because of the night shoots, I always just remember telling myself, okay, Alistair's been awake a lot more, a lot longer than I have. So just get over yourself.
Jonathan, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I actually did, if you don't mind. I was, there's a couple of your other movies I've seen. I was curious about the Lullaby I just happened to watch not that long ago. You are really, really good in that movie. but that's a very dark. I don't know. I'm just curious about that performance. Like, no,
that was with Daryl Rudd. He's a really great director in South Africa too. And I was actually, I was in high school and I watched this movie and he was nominated for an Oscar. So I was like, I want to make a movie with him someday. And I did. So I was like, life goals. Yes, please.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that was a dark character. So actually, that was, I really enjoyed that, but that was also very, very, very draining for me.
I bet.
Yeah, that was great. It was, I don't know why we do this to ourselves. Why do we need to cry and be scared and stuff? But it's fun for the film,
Yeah, because that's one of those, people talk about like, like Heath Ledger playing the Joker or something like that. And it felt like that was that kind of performance. Because
oh wow, sorry, really?
Well, yeah, you just really had to go to some places with it. I've never seen a movie really deal with like postpartum on that kind of a visual level, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm always like when it comes to babies, like don't hurt them, because postpartum is really, really scary. So playing that character I had to consult my mother. I was like, Mother, should I play this character? It's quite dark. And my mom's actually very she's like, yes, she's met someone who's had it. It's a real problem. So if you play this character, it doesn't make you bad or anything. It's just, it brings light to how women can probably feel, because everyone's like, oh no, you just have the baby blues, you'll be okay. I even think the baby blues could be bad. I'm not saying anything. Everyone experiences everything differently. So you get the baby blues, postpartum depression, then postpartum psychosis. So that one's really, really, really rare. But it was really an experience to work on, and even though it was draining.
Yeah, I bet. And then Detour was another movie I saw in the last couple of years that I really like. Christopher Smith. He's kind of a director that I feel like hasn't really gotten enough attention, at least in the States. He did Severance and Triangle and some and Creep. I really, really enjoyed Detour. I was just curious, working on that movie, working with him. You got to work with Ty Sheridan.
Yeah, I mean, wow, Ty is really, really great actor. And he was very young when I got to work with him there. And and obviously Belle Powley, do you know how she played?
Yes. Yeah, we saw her in King of Staten Island this summer.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, she's amazing. So, and obviously, so working, even though it was really briefly, I just worked on set for 2 days. I agree. Chris needs to get a lot more recognition, and but he doesn't. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of like luck, is your film coming out at the right time, at the right place, and who's your audience? Because a lot of people didn't hear about Detour. It was a great experience, and those actors are very lovely and very talented.
We'd like to thank Raina Swart for giving us her time. Jeez, this is it's late in the day now. But appreciate you coming by and telling us about the movie and everything. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh no, thank you, Jonathan and Chris. It was really cool, and I hope you enjoyed Triggered and everyone else watching it.
Today we have two very special guests. It is director Alistair Orr, who did the movie Triggered, and one of the actors of Triggered, Liesl. I just said it. Liesl Ehlers. I just did it. It was a Freudian slip. Liesl Ehlers is with us as well, we talked to a couple of other actors from this movie earlier. Sean Cameron Michael and Raina Swart. We talked to both of them, and they seem to have a lot of fun with this. So, Alistair, what was your inspiration for this movie?
Man, I'd done a lot of supernatural films before. I'd done 4 supernatural films in a row, and I was just looking for something different to do, something to stretch my legs a little bit. This script arrived from a guy in Arizona called David, and me and my producing partner Ari read it, and we realized very early on that no one else is going to make this movie. This thing's ridiculous. So we're the only guys that are going to make this, and that's why we have to do it. So it was something wild, wacky, and different for us.
Yeah. Am I hearing this correctly, that it took several years to get this project off the ground?
No, not really. It took about a year, but we were working with the writer for about 3 years on something else, and we couldn't get the financing for that. So we kept the energy going and developed something that we had the money in the bank for, something achievable that we could do. Everything else was all big makeup effects and monsters and that kind of stuff. So David pitched us this idea where, each one, there's 9 characters, and each one of them will take a turn at being a bad guy.
Right.
Get to rotate the roles a little bit, and we're like, that's awesome. We're cheap guys. Let's go with that.
Liesl, what attracted you to this project?
Wow. Actually, I wanted to work with Al. I saw his film From a House on Willow Street. I remember it was like one Saturday night at my home. I was going through the channels and I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to watch this. And just remember thinking that it was just so inspiring to me. I have, I think it's amazing if South African directors are able to create films that are so on par with, I want to say, like, international level, etc. So I was already like intrigued with Alistair and thought he was amazing. So when he contacted me, I was already so excited. When I
Mm-hmm.
read the script, I was laughing a lot, and I remember telling Alistair, "Oh my gosh, this film is so funny," and he's like, "It's not a comedy. I don't know why you're laughing." I just thought it was so amazing because it's so rare that I actually read a script and like laugh out loud, because usually it's just it's more serious.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just incredible. Pitting people against each other that are friends or supposedly friends, that are in relationships. That's so fascinating because with the Saw franchise, you always, for example, get people who are strangers pitted against each other. So I think it's cool that Al decided, to go in that direction. And then the vests, I think, are just genius. I think it's awesome. And I think how, they have different colors and how that lights the scenes. I just thought that was epic. And I just wanted to be involved so badly. I was like, yes, I'll audition for this.
Was running around in the vest fun though? Was that
It was
was
a
it a
lot of
fun prop?
it was a lot of fun because I've had a couple of people ask me like, so are they heavy, But no, I think the props department did a really good job at constructing them, because I think they're made out of a latex foam type of thing. They're not heavy at all, so it was actually kind of fun. They were a bit constricting, like I guess a bit tight, but that helps with
Mm-hmm.
with acting and just like adds to the whole experience.
It was interesting to hear Sean Cameron Michael talk about how he had to take a 30-hour flight down to South Africa to shoot this movie, and I was wondering, is there a particular reason why this needed to be shot? I guess ostensibly at home for everybody, or is it? I mean, because there's not any, like, you can watch this and there's no like real trace of like where everybody's from and everything, unless I didn't hear something here and there.
No, you're right. Look, I mean, we got government support,
Mm-hmm.
so we had to do, we're mandated to do a lot of the filming in South Africa, and then most of the cast was in South Africa anyway. It was only Sean that we really wanted, and we were willing to fight for him to be in the film.
Mm-hmm.
That we flew him out. We just had to cut our catering budget by half, to cover the flight. Whenever everyone was complaining about the cold hot dogs we were eating, we were like, well, we got Sean Cameron.
What was your casting process like, Alistair? What who were you really searching for to play these people?
So like, Liesl tells one side of the story, I'll tell the other. I felt like this really creepy guy approaching girls on Facebook to be in my movie, at the height of the Harvey Weinstein debacle,
Oh no!
I was like, okay, I'm probably going to creep some people out here.
Yeah.
So we approached. Look, I approached people that I was aware of. The English acting community in South Africa isn't that big. So I mean, if you're in movies and TVs, you're probably on someone's radar. So I reached out to a couple people, and then they recommended people. Like even Liesl recommended the guy who played Mr. Miller, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all friends of friends, really, and that's how it worked.
You shot this out in the woods somewhere, and we talked to Raina a bit about this, but it's not as remote as we were led to believe. I guess there's like a road going by it or whatever. But what's the how was the process of making this look like a giant? I don't know if it might have been a giant piece of woods for all I know, but what was the process like of the setting of this movie.
Yeah, it wasn't far out. It was actually a horse farm where kids learn to ride horses that we had shot on before. It's about 40 minutes south of Johannesburg, where most of us were based.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the big problem with shooting in woods is the electricity and rigging the lights.
Yeah.
We're working on a limited budget, so we could only afford one crane and one big moonlight. It was pretty much locked in position for 90% of the shoot. So we were only ever shooting over like 100-meter stretch of woods that we would change the lighting setup every night. We just lower the crane and pitch shift the light to change the angle in the woods to make it look different.
Mm-hmm.
So the actors are running around the same place over and over again in circles. And when we were worried that it looked too familiar, we would just add more smoke. So
Mm-hmm.
real guerrilla cheat filmmaking. We treated it like a contained thriller. We just instead of it being in a bathroom like Saw, it was just a little block of woods that we used.
Right. There's Saw as a pretty good movie to sort of base it's a lot like Saw for sure, but there were other couple of movies that I thought of during this was Belko Experiment.
Yeah.
And even In Time, even though In Time is not a horror movie by any stretch, but those two movies were those sort of inspirations as well?
We totally stole the time thing from In Time. I mean, we're not clever here. We just borrow liberally, hey.
Yeah.
So yeah, we in the original draft there was different versions of how they would achieve points. So like Peterson was more involved in the game. You would get points for doing the right thing, for achieving, like unlocking rewards, that kind of thing. He would physically activate the points. But obviously things changed.
Right.
And we needed a physical way of transferring the time. Yeah, that's how kind of I forgot what I was talking about.
Yeah, we were just comparing them to other movies and how you were just a dirty thief of those movies and everything.
Messaging me, telling me to shut my mouth. Yeah, we got laws. We're not going out there to make the most original film ever. We took what we loved and we added our little slant to it.
Yeah.
That's all. We love Battle Royale, this is also very big structure. Rip off their Belko Experiment, In Time, the Saw movies. Yeah. We took what we loved and we tried to make it our own.
Yeah.
Well, I like how you had the one character even say, the guy's clearly watched too many Saw movies or whatever. He said something along those lines. And Liesl brought up the fact that, these were friends or supposed friends. That's a different thing. Another different aspect to it from like Saw movies and people that made movies after Saw similar is that like the opening, 15 minutes or whatever is almost feels like a high school or like a college comedy.
Yeah.
A coming of age story. We really actually get to know these characters before they're just, because most of these movies would just open up with them already in the room.
Yeah, we pitched it as Saw meets American Pie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I honestly kind of wish American Pie was more like a Saw movie now that you say that. So.
Yeah. We'd swap out the pie for a trap.
Liesl, I'm going to put you on the spot. Did Alistair give you any kind of direction that sort of stands out, memorable thing you're going to take with you after this movie?
Yes, I guess something that's memorable is the fact that what's cool about Alistair is he had such a strong vision for the film that I felt safe in the sense that he would tell you if you're doing something that he doesn't like. And he actually told me at some point, he was like, listen, I'll tell you if I don't like what you're doing. When he said that to me, that completely changed the game for me after that. I was like, oh my goodness, great. Now
that was on day
I feel
16
like we
or 17
this cool
though,
relationship.
Hey?
That is true. That is true. So after that, I felt very like, like safe to just kind of do what to just do what you do. And I feel like what more can an actor ask for, is to just feel like I can do what I want to do. He'll tell me if he doesn't like it. But yes, no, it's actually honestly just been so much fun for me. There's a camaraderie on set when people are there to make a film, because they want to make a film, because they're inspired to just create something fun and to see someone's vision through. And I feel like that's really something that I felt on the set of Triggered, and it would always like make this film very special to me, just because of this whole experience. Just working with an all South African team was really amazing.
You can both answer this question, I think. What was your most challenging day on set?
Okay, it might be the same one, I'm not sure, but there was there was this the scene without any giving away any spoilers, but me and Miller and Ezra, it was just hard to do because the sun was coming up, so we didn't have a lot of time to actually finish that. I think in the way we wanted to, we've obviously finished it, but I mean, we didn't have a lot of time. We were so pressed for time, and that always puts a bit of strain on everything. But so that to me was a bit tricky. I also had a scene where I had to throw Amber off of me. That was a lot of fun for me, but it was just like physically, like having to do it a couple of times. But no, apart from that, I'd probably say like
The problem was we got rained out for our first 4 or 5 days, and we were only shooting for 17 days, so that cuts the schedule down a lot. So we were, we tried to, in pre-production, give time for the fight scenes and all this kind of stuff, but with losing that time, it left very limited time for those fight scenes, so it became very difficult for everyone involved. I mean, we didn't want to take shortcuts. No movie is worth getting hurt over. So it was very frustrating trying not to take those shortcuts and trying to do it properly, even though you're battling to get the coverage that you need. So like, I would also say that day, Liesel, with you and that other character fighting, you think you've got 3 prop knives that are enough to last in a scene, because you get them made out of foam so you don't hurt anyone. And, they start snapping one after the other. It's weird. When things go wrong, everything goes wrong. I think that was the day that almost brought me to tears.
Jonathan, you have something to ask? I missed my notes here for a second. So
no, you're fine. No, no, this is good. Liesl, you were talking about, and once again, yeah, it's kind of hard. I don't want to give away spoilers, but the scene you were talking about with the 3 characters, that was one of my favorites because it was just like with all the craziness going on, you could see just in all of yours and his performance, like just the wheels turning in your head with like all the chaos around you and the decisions that had to be made. I would assume, are those scenes a little more fun than others, or are they just more challenging? Or
I'm so happy you like that scene. That's great. I think that scene for me was quite challenging in the sense that like I said, there was just like a lot of plotting and stuff involved and everything, and I had a bit of a, I don't know how much of it ended up in the film, but like a bit of a, I want to say monologue when I talk over the phone. Aaron doesn't say a lot in the film, so that to me was quite quite a bit. So I guess in that way it was a bit more demanding, especially if it's like 2 in the morning, or I guess it was like 5 in the morning already by then, to just keep your accent and just get your lines right. And also obviously to me the most important thing is just having my intention there the whole time. I did enjoy shooting that scene, but I think scenes that I really liked specifically were scenes with just me and Ezra talking. That was just a lot of fun. I think Steve was so great. I have to say, like, this sounds a bit mushy, I guess, but all of the actors on this film were just really fun to work with. And I feel like I said, everybody wanted to be there, and we're there for the right reason. And that just changes the game,
And this might be kind of a dumb question, but there's a lot of shouting in this movie. I'm really curious how you guys even kept your voices for 17 days, as much yelling as you were having to do over all the stuff going on.
Wow, maybe Aaron doesn't like yell that much. I don't know. I can't remember feeling that my voice was luckily it didn't affect my voice at all. I didn't feel like that was, but I remember like taking a shower at night and just being like, what is everything that's coming out of my hair? There were like bugs and pieces of politics and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is fun. Like every night, I was like, what am I gonna get tonight? So there was challenges like that, but that makes it fun. It all adds to the whole experience. And I'm so happy we did it in an actual woods setting, because I don't know, like as an actor, it just helped me a lot. Like stumbling over tree trunks, sliding in the mud. It just adds to this whole experience. And something that really drew me to the film in the beginning was that Alistair said that he wanted it to be very real. Like nobody's gonna look pretty. Nobody's gonna, it's gonna be very like authentic in that way, and I love that, because he said, like, if you trip, we're filming it. Like if you fall, we're just gonna keep that take. And that's great. It just frees you up a lot.
Right.
You can just you're free to play.
Alistair, movies I've been told are like, as a director, you are basically a bunch of choices, right? Just you're trying to make the right choice, and one of the choices in this movie, I thought it was interesting. Was there a discussion as to whether the kids would know the rules going into the game as opposed to not knowing them?
Yeah, I mean, that was something that we discussed. We didn't want it to be they find a tape recorder and we had the scene written that they find a tape and they actually don't know what it is. It's so old, they're like, what is this ancient technology?
Right.
Like, okay, if we put the tape in my old van, like we can hear what's going on. But we scrapped that. We thought it was just too much like Saw,
Okay.
Bad guy giving the big monologue explaining what was going on. And we thought it hasn't really been done before where, they've got to figure it out themselves. We thought that was more entertaining.
Yeah,
that issue with the tape thing is no joke, though. I actually yesterday was trying to explain to my 9-year-old daughter what a cassette tape was, and it didn't go well. So I understand.
Yeah. Why would you have this physical thing that plays media on?
The way you described it, though, I want to see this scene now. Ripping off Saw be damned. The fact that they would all be standing around going, "What is this? It's ancient technology," Lisa, you probably have discussed this in some form during the interview, but how did you prepare for this character? How did you go in? How did you tackle it?
Well, I love questions about Aaron. It's honestly one of my favorite, or actually my favorite character I've ever played. I feel like with Aaron, I just really wanted to challenge the whole concept that people have about introverts. I feel like in society we have this negative stigma or stereotype about introverts, where we're like, oh, is she like a mute, or she's so boring or not fun, or and I really wanted to challenge that, and I thought Erin is like the best. It's a great she embodies that kind of, gives me a chance to do that. So it was a lot of fun to kind of show people that we all have a lot of facets to us. There's a lot of layers to everyone. Like in real life, I'm an extrovert, but I'm also an introvert. That's something I learned about myself during quarantine. We all have different sides to us. And I feel like Erin was just the perfect character to explore that and to challenge mindsets a bit. I love that.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, Alistair alluded to it earlier. None of the characters here are 100% good, right? So like there's some sort of bad or whatever you want to call it underneath the surface of all of these characters, and I think that's an interesting aspect to the movie. Jonathan, you have anything else?
Well, I was curious, Alistair. You've mostly stayed, like you were saying, you've done a few supernatural movies before this, and this also has a lot of horror elements to it. Are you drawn to horror films, or is that something you've always been interested in or a fan of?
No, like I'm actually a pretty normal guy. Like I'm not, the weirdo, that touches himself in the corner like it's like I'm a normal guy. I like the aesthetic of the horror films. Like you can play with the light, you can play with the makeup, you can play with the costumes. You just allowed a bit more of artistic freedom with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what draws me to it. Like, I'm not saying you can't do romantic comedies like with cool lighting and all that, but this, I'm just drawn to interesting images, and this is the kind of stuff that, just like, want to see some kind of cool stuff on screen. Like, that's about it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
What's next for both of you guys? What's in the pipeline?
Triggered was my segue, into more action-based stuff. So
Cool.
I'm trying to get some more action kind of projects off the ground. We're pretty far into development with one until COVID hit. I think we would have shot it by now if it wasn't for this pandemic. But hopefully next year we'll get something off the ground.
Yeah.
It's another like a take on a well-used trope in action films. It's another twist, and it's the same team as Triggered. So we're glad we're keeping the family together.
Yeah, awesome. We'll have to keep our eye out for that one. That sounds fun. Well, okay. Well, and Liesl, did you think of something?
So no, I shot a film last year just before we shot Triggered, called The Construct, and it's a psychological thriller, and I've been told that it might be released next year, so that's maybe something to look forward to. And also I've been doing a lot of songwriting. No, I've been lucky enough to sign a publishing deal with an incredible artist, like South African artist, who signed to one of our biggest music labels called Just Music SA. And his album is coming out in November somewhere, and I wrote one of his songs. So that's
awesome.
Like a stepping stone into songwriting, which I really love doing. And I also have like a little clothing label, so I've been busy during quarantine making stuff. I launched a mini bikini like label, kind of like a small range, but not size small, just like it wasn't a big range.
Right. Like, my God, you got a ton of stuff going on then.
Oh, thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You must like every day you've got something new you gotta tackle probably. Oh my gosh. Well, Jonathan, unless you have something else, I mean, obviously this is a movie we can't spoil too often, and everything. So we want to make sure that everybody goes and watches Triggered, which is November 6th, if I recall. And it'll be on all the platforms, the on-demand, digital, and some theaters and everything like that. But Liesl and Alistair, thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us.
All right, we'd like to thank Sean Cameron Michael, Raina Swart, Alistair Orr, and Liesl Ehlers. Please check out their new movie, Triggered, available on demand and digital November 6th.
Thanks for listening. Comment on our episodes on our SoundCloud page. Check us out on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and Reddit. And be sure to visit cinemasins.com.